Good morning, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond The Courtroom, where law and culture intersect.
I like that.
I know, right? Also, where we have fine coasters in the studio. That we have some leather-bound coasters that look delightful today. But anyways, it's going to be a firebomb edition of Wade Beyond The Courtroom today. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump, Ronda Rousey,
Wow.
Planned Parenthood, and Cecil the Lion.
Ooh.
I know, right?
Ooh.
So before we get into all of that, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm well. So I'm assuming nothing exciting happened this week because you were always very chill and zen with the universe.
No, things are good.
Good.
Life's just kind of rolling right along.
That's good. That's good.
We do what we do.
As I always say, too much excitement sometimes is not what you want.
Right.
Right? Exactly.
Exactly.
So let's get right into it. We got a lot of talk today in the firebomb edition of Wade Beyond The Courtroom. And what I mean by that is because those four topics that I just related to you, two of them are extremely emotional right now, being Cecil the Lion and a little bit of the Planned Parenthood stuff that's going on in the news right now. Donald Trump is both funny and emotional for people.
Right.
And then the Ronda Rousey issue is going to be something we're going to talk about for about 1 minute. But
I don't quite get her.
Well, we're going to talk about it. But let's talk about Cecil the Lion first.
Okay.
So you are aware of Cecil the Lion, what happened with that, right?
Yes.
If anyone's been in a cave somewhere or perhaps traveling overseas without internet, news, telephone, or newspaper, in Zimbabwe recently, a United States dentist who lives in Minnesota but identifies himself as a North Dakotan,
right,
which is where I'm from originally, which is...
I didn't know that.
Yes, we're learning something new. Went on what's called a trophy hunt and killed a famous... Now, this happens in Zimbabwe all the time. Killed a famous lion.
So this is allowed. You can go lion hunting.
You can, yes. And actually, and this is where some of the interesting facts come in. So Zimbabwe's tourism basically you can come in, you can pay them to go for a trophy hunt, you can kill,
right,
it's beautiful land there with beautiful animals,
yeah,
and so people who are into that sort of thing will pay money to go to Zimbabwe for that opportunity. And Americans attribute about 60% to 67% of that tourism,
sure,
of the big game tourism, and it's legal to do it in Zimbabwe. Okay, it's not like this guy; these people are sneaking in, shooting animals and running out. That's called
right,
poaching, and that's illegal.
Right.
Now, however, in this case, what's really interesting is two things. One is that, unfortunately for this dentist, he killed a famous lion. Apparently, not famous to me. I'd never heard of Cecil the Lion until this last week or two. But because this lion was very well known in this preserve, there was this huge international outroar, from the United States especially, where everyone just lost their mind. Okay,
yeah,
and the facts are terrible. First of all, I mean, I guess what happened is that they lured him off of a preserve, of a safety preserve, where they couldn't get him, but then they lured him off of it to a place where they could get him. And then they shot him with a bow and arrow, and he was suffered for 40 hours till they hunted him down and killed him.
It's awful.
It is awful.
Yeah.
And just for the record, I'm actually against trophy game hunting for two reasons. One, I really am against it, and two, I'd like to stay married. So, yes, if my wife is extremely passionate about this issue, and so we've been having some really interesting discussions, because from a legal perspective is where it gets really interesting, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, and it's interesting because here people go hunting, deer hunting, and stuff like that. There are those that are for it. There are those that are against it. There are those that say that if you don't hunt, we'll be overpopulated by deer and antelope and what have you.
Sure.
But I mean, I think the jury's still out on that.
Well, and this is
but this is a different situation. This is like a lion.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is it's a different situation for two reasons. Number one is that deer hunting, duck hunting, fishing, all of that sort of stuff. That argument in my mind doesn't necessarily apply to trophy game, because
right,
the purpose of any hunter will tell you, and I've been hunting in my life. I grew up in North Dakota.
Yeah.
I don't do it now. I go fishing on occasion, right? But I don't enjoy hunting or walking outside with a tremendous technological advantage over animals, as I like to call it. But fishing, I do like fishing, but I'm not a hunter. This is not my gig, right? My brother likes that kind of stuff. But
you're a lover.
I'm a lover, not a hunter. Right, exactly. I'm a hunter of love, Mike.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
That's another show.
That's a whole other show, right? Yes, and now really I'm a hunter in ways to please my wife and make her happy. That's my job now.
But people are really emotional about this.
Absolutely. And well, it is. And but first, so issue number one, now to get back to this, before we go totally off the rails, is that the lions are on the verge of being endangered species, or they're a protected species.
Yeah.
That's why Cecil the lion was on a protected reserve. Okay, so the hunting argument to me doesn't hold very much water in terms of, well, we should just be able to kill whatever animal we want. And because hunting should be legal for every single thing that exists on the earth, and I disagree with that. So, but there are people who disagree with me, and that's fine. So we're not here to debate the merits of the hunting part of should we be hunting lions or should we not be hunting lions. What we're here to talk about on today, which is extremely interesting when I did some research on this, is legally, right? There's all this outrage. There were some people that were actually calling for this dentist to be killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also not right. Okay, that's on the that's on the very other far end of the spectrum for public callings for this man's execution. So
you want to say that people are getting too overly charged about this, emotionally charged, but then again, when you look at what he did, I mean, he did an awful thing.
Terrible, and that's what the law is for. Look, the law is to sort that stuff out, because what happens is that you've got all of these people who are picketing his house, which they have a right to do under your friend, the First Amendment.
Right.
You have all of these people who have the right to criticize him all they want. That's fine when you're right under your friend, the First Amendment. However, when you start to get into, hey, let's go and become a vigilante mob and go murder this guy because we disagree with what he did.
Can't do that.
Cannot do that, and that's why we have laws in this country. So when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the specific laws that would apply to the Cecil the Lion situation. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom, where
Yes.
law and culture meet.
Indeed.
So we've been talking about Cecil the Lion, and Wade Beyond the Courtroom, I think Mike is with me on this. We are against trophy hunting.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So, but now let's talk about what are the ramifications for this dentist. So everyone's calling that he should be prosecuted, and how are we going to do that? So let's actually talk about legally, can he be prosecuted?
And again, first, let's be level-headed. The vigilante thing, that's off the table.
Already talked about that.
So you can't do that.
We're not.
Okay.
We're looking to see if there was a way legally under the law that this dentist can be prosecuted and/or punished for trophy hunting in another country.
Okay.
So key number one is in another country. So for this reason, in the United States, there are animals that are protected that you can't kill them, and if you do, you get in trouble. So you see people like there's condors and things like that. You know, you get in big time trouble if you kill those things. But this happened in another country.
Yeah.
So there's something that's called an extradition treaty, basically, which United States will sign with another country. And what that means basically is that we say to another country, we will let you extradite our citizens, okay, to take them back to your country.
Right.
If they break a law in your country that is punishable by more than a year in jail, and that it must be a crime in both countries. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason, and we signed an extradition treaty with Zimbabwe in the year 2000. President Bill Clinton at the time said, "Yes, Zimbabwe, we will send you your people, and we will take people from you if punishable by more than a year, and it is a crime in both countries." So let's say that Zimbabwe says, "Yes, this is poaching because it was an illegal hunt. They determined it's a legal hunt. We want to prosecute him for an illegal hunt." Right? Well, this specific case was very interesting because there is a law in the United States against poaching. However, they only trigger though to the transportation of the animal's carcass after it's been killed. All right? It doesn't actually criminalize the act of killing itself. And this is why the law becomes so tricky, because when they're sitting down and writing this law, they're just thinking about, okay, we're thinking about people going to Africa, killing animals and bringing them back to the United States so they can hang them on their wall. And everyone agrees that that's bad, right? Yeah. But they did not put in there, basically in the poaching law, that anything about the killing of the animal being illegal. So technically, because the killing of it itself is not illegal in the United States from this poaching law, going into the country and killing these things, you can't be extradited under the Zimbabwe law. Now, here's the other issue as well, is that there's some other stuff. There's the Lacey Act passed in the 1900s, which prohibits interstate or foreign commerce involving any fish, wildlife, or plants, okay, sold in violation of state or foreign law. However, the trigger for that is also when the carcass is transported over borders. So Zimbabwe still has Cecil the Lion. So they kind of messed up on this. What they should have done is they should have just not said anything. Let the dentist take the lion head, as despicable as people might think that is, right? Transport it to the United States, and then we could prosecute them all day long for under both the poaching law and under the Lacey Act.
Gotcha.
So, but what's fascinating about this is that he actually technically did not violate any law because he didn't transport the animal, and none of the laws seem to do anything about the killing of the animal.
Is that on their side or on our side?
Well, both. So
Yeah.
on their side, it is in Zimbabwe. It is illegal for poaching. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but for the extradition treaty, it has to be, hey, listen, it's illegal in our country and it's illegal in your country.
So if he lured the animal off the reserve, is that poaching?
Well, I would say yes,
Yeah.
and that the argument would be made, but that's illegal in Zimbabwe. But the killing of the animal, by my reading of the law and by my research, is actually not prohibited by United States law. The transport of the animal is, meaning if he would have killed it and brought it over the border, borders, flew it home or whatever to the United States, he's now transported it, and then he's in violation of the law.
Yeah.
And this is how the law gets tricky, because it's hard to write laws that cover everything, because you don't want to be over-inclusive, because then it makes everything illegal, and you don't want to be under-inclusive for just this reason here, is people think it's easy to write a law or criminal law, and certain ones of them are easy. Yes, don't kill anyone. Right? But then, well, what if it's in self-defense? Then, as you start to craft all of these possible scenarios, there are situations that can slip through the cracks, and they only usually get fixed when there's a huge, giant public outcry. Don't be surprised if some congressman or congresswoman is going to be introducing a law that's going to make this illegal, basically in terms of that it would fall under the extradition treaty for both Zimbabwe and the United States. That's going to happen. But these things happen in reaction to public events.
This guy is like just totally in hiding now. I mean,
yeah.
The damage control on that. How do you?
He just has to wait it out.
Yeah.
The only thing he can do is basically he would have to move his dental practice to an extremely ultra hunting community,
right.
Where he could get some business, and he'll have to wait it out till there are some. Listen, the attention span of the American public is incredibly short.
Yeah.
It will be drawn to something else. He just has to wait for another crisis or somebody else for people to get mad at, and they'll all forget about Cecil the Lion, and then your Facebook page will be filled with pages and pages and pages of...
Do we know if he's done this before?
I believe he has, actually, yes. There was some really bad... The optics on this are really, really bad.
So it's like a Fantasy Island wish kind of thing where I want to do this. And
like I said, I try not to judge people on how they do what they do for enjoyment, and in this case, what he's doing all seemed legal. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not my job to basically decide what's legal and illegal. I myself would not do it. I disapprove of it if people ask my opinion. But the thing is that people do it. Americans are responsible for 60% of trophy hunting in Zimbabwe.
Right.
And so it's another flip side of it is Zimbabwe's like, hey, listen, this is actually critical to our conservation efforts. This happened before too. About 2 months ago, there was a very rare white rhino. Okay, I believe it was a white rhino.
I remember this.
Right,
yes.
And so somebody paid to be able to go and shoot that white rhino, right? And I don't remember what country it was, and because it just occurred to me now that I was like, that really annoys me on many levels. And it's the same thing. Their argument, though, is like, look, we have to be able to do this because we're a poor country, we have no resources, and we use this money to help protect the other animals for conservation.
Yeah.
So it's like selective. We're like, okay, we're going to give up a selective part of our resources so we can protect the rest of them. And it's just sad that situation exists, that there's not enough money to protect all those beautiful resources because, one day our kids or grandkids, they're going to be asking us, hey, what is a lion? Did you ever see one? And they're not going to be around. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about this and get in a little bit of the First Amendment again. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. This is Wade Beyond the Courtroom, where culture and law meet.
Pretty emotional show this morning.
Really, we're going to lighten it up a little bit for about 1 minute, and then we're going to get emotional again. That's right. And that's the thing, is what's interesting about it is that the law is supposed to be emotionless, and that's why cooler heads need to prevail. Otherwise, we just have vigilante justice, and this dentist is in deep trouble. So thankfully, there's been no physical violence. I don't think any sane person is advocating that against this dentist, even though we may feel we want to take him out to the woodshed. As we would say in North Dakota, is maybe he needs to be taken to the woodshed. So, but some of the people I grew up with would disagree with me. And they're very pro super hunting, and they don't see the problem, especially because it was legal. But like I disagree.
Well, and there are those that say it's just an animal.
Right.
So, I mean, and that kind of mentality, of course.
And my wife said something,
You know.
a really good point. She said she was very thankful that, in defending her own very strong view, she said, look, that's why aren't we grateful that we have so many people of different views? Otherwise, we're all just doing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it is a very emotional issue. And we'll come off of that about Cecil the Lion, and we'll have a little 5 seconds of silence for Cecil. That's the only time that radio silence is allowed, Mike.
That's called dead air.
That's right. That's the
Yeah.
Cecil 5 seconds of moment of silence for him. So, the talking about going to another country and doing something illegal. Did you hear about the Ronda Rousey UFC fight last night?
Yes.
Yes. 24 seconds or something like that. And here's the thing. The only thing I'm going to say about this is that that someone has transcended sport when my wife wants to watch that fight.
Yeah.
I'm not a big UFC guy myself. That's yet another way I don't fulfill my time is by watching UFC fighting. But it's extremely popular, and some of my friends they really enjoy it, and that's great. But it's just not my thing.
So who'd she knock out last night?
She knocked out someone a Brazilian in Brazil.
Wow.
She went into her house and knocked this poor lady out. And it was the reason no one's really seen anything like Ronda Rousey. She was the headlining event, which I think is awesome because it's a woman fighter was headlining a card for the night, meaning like if Muhammad Ali was fighting, he would be the last fight because that's the biggest fight, right?
Yeah.
I don't know of another time where a woman fighter has ever headlined a card with male fighters on it as well, and everyone wanted to see it. I bought the fight just so I could see it. I wasn't even bothered it was 24 seconds long. I mean, the fight was expensive. It was like $60.
That's
it was like
the thing with that, yeah.
$60. And so, what is that, like $3 a second?
Basically.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyways, I had to talk about going to a different country and doing something illegal. Ronda Rousey should be put in jail for that beatdown she put on that poor lady. It was, anyway. So
What was her motivation for that? Did they say?
Well, she wanted to win the fight because she wins a lot of money. I'm sure she won, millions of dollars in the millions because from the pay-per-view receipts. And then also too is that this poor Brazilian lady was trash talking her family.
Oh.
Personal attacks. So I would recommend against personal
keep it in the ring.
ad hominem attacks against
keep it in the
Ronda
ring.
Rousey.
Yeah.
Don't do that. So
Has she ever fought a man?
no, and there's calls for some people want her to do that, and I don't think she should.
No.
It's silly. It's like, look, she's the best in the world at what she does, and she doesn't have to prove anything else. In my opinion, and I don't think she's going to ever fight a man. So,
how much did you pay for the fight to watch on TV?
$60.
That could have bought you a nice dinner at Salt Creek Grill or something.
I know. Well, I had opened a beer and I was like, and I was clicking on it, right? And then I was clicking on it, and I sort of ordered it before I knew what the price was. So, and I'm glad I did because I got to see the fight and talk about it today and just experience it, in terms of, because I think it's one of those things where it's like seeing Michael Jordan play, basketball, or seeing Muhammad Ali fight a fight. Like, I think you're going to be telling your kids, I saw this fight. It was amazing. I don't think she's ever going to lose.
Well, I think she's very strong. I'm just not quite sold on.
She's an Olympic judo champion.
Yeah.
This lady is an athlete in the true sense of the word. So she's like, well, I'm going to go win an Olympic gold medal. Now what do I want to do? I'll just go do this sport that I've never done before and totally dominate it as well.
And she may be full of herself as well, I think, to an extent.
I have no idea.
So
I don't know the lady personally. Yeah. All I know is she's number one in the world at what she does.
And keep your doors locked if she's walking down your street.
Well, Mike, and if you keep smack talking about her like that,
over here.
She's going to come in and she's going to do Wade Beyond the Courtroom. So I just want to talk briefly, really super briefly, on the fire bombing issue of Wade Beyond the Courtroom, about this Planned Parenthood situation. We're not getting into the political specifics of it, but we're going to talk about the legal aspects of it, because we had recently been talking about the First Amendment. And there were these videos that came out that showed Planned Parenthood in a very, very negative light, and then Planned Parenthood asked a judge in California to file what's called an injunction. And what an injunction basically is it says, okay, you have to stop doing this temporarily, whatever it is that you're doing, and we're going to figure out if you can do it or not, right?
Yeah.
And so there's all these other videos that are yet to be released, and this judge said no to this undercover organization. You can't release these videos until we sort this out. The reason why that's interesting for us is that butts up right against the First Amendment in the United States, okay?
Right.
Whereas these people are arguing, look, there's no difference from what we do from like when 60 Minutes does an expose or whatever, but it's an incredibly charged political issue, and on both sides, and it's just, this is where the law becomes so fascinating, because now they're trying to say, can they stop these people from releasing these videos? And they're doing it under privacy by saying, look, these people didn't know that they were being recorded, and in each of those states, there are certain laws that say you can and can't do that. So in California, for instance, I can't record a telephone conversation with you unless you consent.
Right.
Okay? However, there is case law that says in this specific case that I can record you in a restaurant because you don't have any expectation of privacy. And so this is not just like Cecil the Lion. People on both sides are losing their minds about it because this is an incredibly emotional issue for people, and we're not taking a side either way on that. Because we're not a political show, but legally, basically, I think that the Planned Parenthood people are going to lose. I think that the videos are going to be released because I think it's a clear violation of the First Amendment. Agree or disagree with what the group is doing, it is a clear violation of the First Amendment. This is the exact type of thing that the First Amendment was created to do. Now, there are charges in terms of like that the videos were edited and all of that, but that's a whole nother argument as well. So it's just really fascinating when we were talking about the First Amendment, and some huge issue like this comes in, and we're chatting about it. So I just thought that was really, really interesting because we're talking about the First Amendment.
Sure.
I'm making a call that I think that this restraining order is going to be lifted because it is against the First Amendment to be able to stop this group from releasing those videos.
Right.
And it just is since we had talked about it last week. So anyways, Mike, this is the
Good
fire.
show.
And one last thing about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, number one on the polls.
Yeah.
You could have bet me $1 million, and I've been like, I did not think.
Come over or fake? We don't know yet.
We don't know yet. So anyways, but
if you have inside information, let us know.
I will. We'll get the team on that. So this is the Firebrand issue. We got to all 4 of those issues, and you guys have a great week. You've been listening to Wade Beyond the Courtroom on your hometown station.